What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and today we're going to discuss the Bartolo Colon trade, which occurred back on June 27th, 2002. Now, this was a trade between the then Montreal Expos and the Cleveland Guardians that saw 6 players change hands, with Montreal getting starting pitcher Bartolo Colon and another pitcher from Cleveland in exchange for essentially 4 prospects. Now, as the 2002 season continued on, the Cleveland team, they were on the outside of the playoff picture. Rather than risk losing Bartolo Colon, who was scheduled to be a free agent after the following 2003 season, to free agency, the team decided, you know what, we're not going to compete this year, we're not going to compete next year, let's get some assets for him. So they traded him. The Montreal Expos, on the flip side, they were competitive for the first time in about a decade. And it was clear at this point that they were going to be leaving Montreal, so the team kind of wanted to put themselves in a position to give the fan base one last final hurrah. So they decided to try to capitalize and acquire Bartolo Colon. How did this trade work out? We will start by looking at the Montreal Expos. Now, they got 2 pitchers here in the original trade, the first of which is, of course, starting pitcher Bartolo Colon. Now, Colon played pretty well over the final couple months of the season. He had a 10-4 record with a 3.31 ERA. Not bad. Now, the team did end up missing the playoffs, unfortunately for them, and Montreal decided to trade him away to the Chicago White Sox in exchange for 3 assets. The first asset was starting pitcher Orlando Hernandez. Now, Hernandez would miss the entire 2003 season with a rotator cuff injury, and then he would walk as a free agent. They also got relief pitcher Rocky Biddle. Now, Biddle, he was the Expos closer for the 2003 season, where he was decent. Not great, but decent. He did record 34 saves, but he had a 4.65 ERA. Now, in 2004, he completely fell apart. He had a 6.92 ERA, and then they ended up kind of moving him into a starting role because they couldn't deal with him in the closing role, and he ends up getting released after the 2004 season. Not the best. Now, they also got utility man Jeff Leafer, and he would appear in 35 games over 2 months for the team, where he hit a .93 with 3 homers before he was waived. Not the best. Now, Montreal also got pitcher Tim Drew from Cleveland in the original Bartolo Colon trade, and he would appear in 13 games, starting 2 of them, over 2 seasons for Montreal. He had a 6.2 ERA over that time span. He did also earn a pair of saves, but then they allowed him to walk. Not the best trade for Montreal, but it gets worse. How did the Cleveland Guardians do? The first player we're going to look at is starting pitcher Cliff Lee. Now, Cliff Lee would debut in 2002, but he would only appear in a pair of games. Now, an abdominal strain coupled with a sports hernia limited him to only 9 games in the 2003 season. Now, he would start off the 2004 campaign very strong, but he cooled off after the All-Star break. He ended that year with a 14-8 record and a 5.43 ERA, despite starting it off with a 10-1 stretch. So, yeah, he clearly fell off after the All-Star break. Now, he had a very, very strong season in 2005, as he would go 18-5, which was good for a league-leading .783 win percentage and a 3.79 ERA. This had him finish 4th in AL Cy Young voting. Now, in 2006, he played very well. Again, as he ended the season with a 14-11 record and a 4.4 ERA. Now, unfortunately for him, he would start off the 2007 campaign on the injured list with another abdominal strain. He would struggle upon his return in May, which eventually led to his demotion by July. Pretty surprising fall. Now, he would get called up in September, but he would move to the bullpen. Overall, that year in 2007, he would go 5-8 with a 6.29 ERA. Now, he went into 2008 hoping to prove that 2007 was a fluke and that he was dealing with multiple injuries that year. And he did. He broke out in 2008. He would win 19 of his first 21 starts. He went 5-0 with a .96 ERA in the month of April. He was clearly dialed in that year. He led the AL in wins with 22, win percentage with a .880 win percentage, and ERA with a 2.54 ERA. He would win the AL Cy Young that year. Now, he started off the 2009 season decently, and by late July, he had a 7-9 record with a 3.14 ERA. Now, he would end up getting traded. This trade was discussed in the Roy Halladay trade, which will be linked in the description below. Still, though, Cliff Lee was very successful in Cleveland. He was a one-time AL Cy Young winner, a one-time All-Star, a one-time AL Comeback Player of the Year, and he led the AL in ERA once, and he led the major leagues in wins one time. Pretty successful. If they just got Lee in return, it would still be a lopsided trade. But they got 3 more assets. The next one we're going to look at is second baseman Brandon Phillips. Now, Phillips would spend most of the 2002 season in AAA. He would win the starting second base job in 2003, but he struggled at times and he ends up getting demoted. Now, he was called up to end the season, and he ended the year with a 208 average along with 6 homers in 112 games. Now, he would spend most of the 04 and 05 seasons in AAA. Cleveland, at this point, they were fed up with his lack of production in the minors, so they decided, you know what, we're going to get rid of him. So they would trade him to the Cincinnati Reds in exchange for relief pitcher Jeff Stevens. Now, Stevens would spend 2.5 years in the minors before he, in turn, was traded to the Cubs along with 2 other players in exchange for third baseman outfielder Mark DeRosa. Now, DeRosa had a solid half year with the team as he would hit .270 with 13 homers and 50 RBIs across 71 games before he was also traded to the St. Louis Cardinals in exchange for a pair of relievers. So the first reliever we're going to look at is Chris Perez. Now, he would step into a middle relief role for his first half year in Cleveland, but he would become the closer midway through the 2010 season, and he would hold on to this role through the 2013 season before he was released following that year. He went 11-17 with a 3.33 ERA and 124 saves over his 4.5 years in Cleveland. He was a 2-time All-Star, but he really kind of struggled in 2013, and he had some problems off the field. So that's kind of why they were kind of like, all right, we'll get rid of him. Now, they also got Jess Todd, who was a reliever in this trade, and he would appear in 24 games over 2 years, but he had a 7.43 ERA. He spent most of those 2 seasons in AAA before he walked. So, back to the original trade here, there's still more. So, Cleveland also got outfielder Grady Sizemore. Now, Sizemore would spend the first 2 years with the system in the minors before debuting in the summer of 2004. During that season, Sizemore would hit .246 with 4 homers. Now, he would win the starting center field job in 2005, and he quickly established himself as a future star of the league due to his elite defense, top-tier speed, and strong contact ability. He ended that year with a .298 batting average, 22 homers, 22 stolen bases, 111 runs, 37 doubles, and 11 triples. Now, he continued to improve in 06 as he would hit .290 with 28 homers, 22 stolen bases, and 11 triples. He also led the league in runs with 134, doubles with 53, and extra base hits with 92. Now, he started off the 2007 season on a complete tear, which led to him being on the cover of the May edition of Sports Illustrated. Cleveland's GM said that Sizemore is, quote, without a doubt, one of the greatest players of our generation, end quote. He ended that year appearing in all 162 games for the second consecutive season, while adding a league-leading 748 plate appearances. He had a .277 average, 24 homers, 33 stolen bases, and a career-high 101 walks. Now, he continued to play well in 2008 as he had arguably the best year of his career, hitting a career-high 33 homers while stealing a career-high 38 bases. Unfortunately, he hit .268, but it was clear that he was still a star. Now, like I said, unfortunately, this would be his last season that he was actually at full strength. So, in 2009, he would pull a muscle in his groin and he hurt his elbow during spring training. These injuries limited him to 106 games and caused him to slump a bit, as he would hit .248 with 18 homers and 13 stolen bases. Now, he would only appear in 33 games in the 2010 season, but he was clearly not himself, as he hit only .211 without any homers. Now, he would have to undergo microfracture surgery on his knee, and then a couple of knee injuries and a sports hernia just limited him to only 71 games in 2011. In that season, he would hit .224 with 10 homers, but he did not steal a single base. Now, he would miss the entire 2012 season due to a back injury and re-injuring his knee. He needed another surgery on his knee as it was not healing properly. Now, he was allowed to walk after the 2012 season, and he's unfortunately one of the biggest what-if stories of the 21st century, if not in Major League Baseball history. I remember watching Sizemore play when he was on fire, and it was just fun. He's the exact type of player I like watching. If you guys watch videos with me, you know I like those high contact guys, guys who steal, guys who can play strong defense. So it's really sad, but so his time in Cleveland was not for nothing though. He was a 3-time All-Star, a 2-time Gold Glover, and a 1-time Silver Slugger. And they still got one more asset in this deal, but the last asset that they got was first baseman outfielder Lee Stevens. Lee Stevens would hit .222 with 5 homers over 53 games in a half season before he walked. So it could have been worse, I guess, for Montreal had Sizemore stayed healthy. Had Lee not been traded, if you include the players that they got in the Lee trade, it is worse. But yeah, so how did the other teams involved do, the secondary teams? We'll start by looking at the Chicago White Sox, as they got Mr. Big Sexy himself, Bartolo Colon. Now, he had a pretty solid season in Chicago. He would go 15-13 with a 3.87 ERA, and he led the league with 9 shutouts that year. Now, after the season, he would walk as a free agent. They also got shortstop second baseman Jorge Nunez in this deal. And Nunez, he was cut after only a half season in the minors. Next, we have the Cincinnati Reds, who got second baseman Brandon Phillips. The move to Cincinnati really just seemed to help him out, and everything started to click for him in Cincinnati. He would win the starting second base job in 2006, and he played decently well, hitting .276 with 17 homers. Now, he would have a 30-30 season in 2007, recording 30 homers with 32 stolen bases. He also had a .288 average. Now, he had a decent year in 2008, hitting .261 with 21 homers and 23 stolen bases. This year also saw him win a Gold Glove. He had the last 2020 season of his career, the following year, when he hit 20 homers with 25 stolen bases and a .276 average. Now, he had a solid 2010 season, as he would hit .275 with 18 homers. Now, he had a controversial moment during that season, when he stirred up the Reds' rivalry with the St. Louis Cardinals. He stated, quote, "I hate the Cardinals. All they do is bleep and moan about everything. All of them. They're little bleeps. All of them. ... I hate the Cardinals." End quote. This eventually led to a bench-clearing brawl after Yadier Molina got into his face after those comments. Interesting stuff. Now, he would hit .300 in 2011, which was the highest average in his career, and he had a respectable 18 homers. His strong play carried over into 2012, as he would hit .281 with 18 homers. And once more, it carried into 2013, as he hit .261 with a career-high 103 RBIs and 18 homers. The next 3 seasons, 2014 to 2016, were solid, as he hit a combined .285 with 31 homers and 39 stolen bases. Now, he would be traded after the 2016 season. We will not be discussing that. He was pretty impressive, too. He was a 3-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove winner, and a 1-time Silver Slugger. And part of the Cardinals-Red rivalry also saw him kind of get snubbed in one of those years from the All-Star game. So he probably could have been and should have been a 4-time All-Star, but Tony La Russa was the manager for the NL. He chose another player over Brandon Phillips, so just got to put that out there. Now, there's still 2 more teams we have to look at, and both are, of course, in the NL Central. The next will be the Chicago Cubs. Now, the Cubs got a trio of pitchers. The first one is relief pitcher Jeff Stevens. Stevens would appear in 33 games over 3 years in a relief role. He would go 1-0, but he had a 6.27 ERA before he was cut. They also got the infamous starting pitcher Chris Archer. Now, he had spent 2 years in the minors before he was traded. We will not be discussing that. The last player they got was relief pitcher John Gubb, and he would appear in 4 games, posting a 6.75 ERA across 2 2/3 innings before he was released, so not the best. Last team is the St. Louis Cardinals, who got third baseman outfielder Mark DeRosa, and DeRosa, shortly after being acquired, hurt his wrist. This injury would follow him through the rest of the season. Despite it, he did manage to hit 10 homers, albeit with a .228 average before walking, but that injury really slowed him. So now we have the fun part, unless you're a Nationals/Expos fan. We're going to look at the total WAR. So Montreal, they got a negative 3.5 WAR out of this trade. On the flip side, Cleveland, they got themselves a 48.9 WAR. And again, that does not include the assets that they got from the Phillies in the Cliff Lee trade. The secondary teams, Chicago got a 5.1. The Cubs got a negative 0.9. St. Louis got a 0.4. But Cincinnati got themselves a 28.1 WAR out of Brandon Phillips. I hope you guys enjoyed this trade breakdown. This was the Bartolo Colon trade. Have a good rest of your day.